Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk about core issues and the dark night of the soul. Because what many people fail to realize on the spiritual path is that even though you reach the bliss levels of the 500s, you might still have some very dark times to face, and that's called the dark night of the soul. And it can last for a long time. For me, it lasted for years. I was in the 500s for years. In the beginning, it was all bliss and amazing, and basically almost like I could perceive, halfway or at least a certain percentage into 4D. So everything became super beautiful, and I could go for these walks in nature and just, it was almost like being on drugs or being on LSD. A light LSD trip, but I was completely sober, and I go for these walks, and I would just be blissed out in the forest, and it was amazing. That was the first couple of years or so after my initial breakthrough into 540s, and then things slowly but steadily started to change, and I sort of became stagnated at that level, and I didn't know why. I thought I was on the verge of breaking through to enlightenment. That was like 10 years ago. So I spent a lot of years in the 500s, and I didn't understand what was happening, because I used to be so happy and blissful, and then it just turned to the opposite in the course of some years. And it all started with me being sick for 2.5, or at least more than 2 years, right after 2012. That was, Bashar was talking about a session then, in a session back then in 2012, he talked about that some of you might get sick because of the energy change or something like that in the times ahead, and I got sick for 2 years. I'm not going to go into detail about all that, but that's when my bliss turned to the opposite, and the dark night of the soul started, because it was a horrible illness of digestive problems and eczema, and I couldn't work for 2 years. I had eczema all over my body, so when I woke up in the morning, I would stretch my legs. I could feel the sores crack open, and it was not fun, and I didn't know how to get out of it, and but eventually I did, because I had similar problems before, but I found a way to get out of it with diets and these things, but it didn't work this time. So I just went on and on. I had to eat the same boring diet, like, every day for more than 2 years. And when I finally got out of it, I had to get ET help. I have not talked about that before, but that's the first time I have a conscious encounter with ETs. It was back, I guess, in 2014 or something like that. Or maybe 15, I'm not sure. At least it was a couple of years after the disease started. And I was lying in bed in the morning. I woke up way too early, like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I decided to try these techniques you can use to have an out-of-body or astral travel experience. So I just decided to do that, and you basically lie on your bed, and you allow the body to fall asleep as you remain conscious in your mind, kind of. And it didn't take long before something started to happen, because I've done that before many times, or several times, so I knew it worked, and I was kind of used to it, so it wasn't a big deal for me to do it, but I just, why not try it, since I'm awake anyway. And within 5 seconds after I started doing that, it was like the walls were crackling with some electric charge or something in my bedroom. And suddenly I'm lying there and I can't move, and 4 beings that look to me like grays, but I can't see them clearly, they stand around on each corner of my bed. And this is happening with eyes closed, but I'm not sleeping. There's no dream. This is really happening. And I got that confirmed later from when the Bashar being contacted me more or less 6 months ago. But anyway, I'll get back to that. But they stood there in each corner of the bed, and telepathically they told me not to worry. And then I felt this vibration in 30 centimeters of my gut, or maybe half a meter of my gut or something like that, was vibrating inside my stomach for no more than 10 seconds, and then it was gone. And then they said telepathically, like, now you don't have to worry now you don't have to worry about your illness anymore. You can eat anything you want. Your illness will be gone soon. And then they said you also have 4 hybrid children. And then the whole thing just disappeared, and I woke up, or I opened my eyes, and I was back in my normal bedroom. And I felt reassured that I could eat regular stuff again. At least I tried, carefully to adjust my diet back to more normal stuff. And within a week or so, the problem was basically gone. So that was how because those 2 years I was so down, I started drinking a lot. And that became a habit, because I couldn't really go out, so the only fun I had was to be alone at home and drink and watch movie clips or movies and listen to music. That was basically the only fun I had, and only way to forget my condition, which I thought would never end. I didn't see any, because the normal cure I usually worked within a couple of months, but now it's been more than a year and 2 years, then I didn't know what to do anymore. But anyway, that was the beginning of, and also became very isolated because I couldn't really be social. I didn't feel like it when I had that condition. So that was definitely the beginning of my dark night of the soul. But it doesn't have to be that much for most people, I believe. But the dark night of the soul is caused by one thing and one thing only, and that is core issues. Because even though you have reached levels like the 500s and even low 600s below non-duality, that is below 640 on the scale of consciousness, the reason you're not enlightened, partially at least, is because you still have core issues. And these core issues are created in childhood before you can even remember them, most likely. And everything else, that's like the primal stuff, and that's everything else, that's off balance, is built upon these core issues. So it's like a pyramid, and these core issues are often caused by parents, but it doesn't have to be. But in my case, I had 2 core issues, one mother issue and one father issue, or one masculine and one feminine issue. And both of them were healed about 6 months ago, when I had my encounter with the being who called himself Bashar, which I talk about in a previous video called ET/Higher Mind Encounter. So you can probably listen to that one first, but in this video I've decided to go into more detail about what happened, because I thought at that time when I made the other video, I thought it was too personal. Maybe the experience was too fresh, but now I feel that the time has come to share it, because I believe it can benefit other people, because this time we're in now is called, according to Bashar, it's called the eye of the needle. And everything has to be squeezed out as you pass the eye of the needle. And this is what happened to me, I believe, at least. It felt like it when I healed these core issues. And it doesn't mean it has to happen this way to you. It doesn't mean it has to be this severe for you. It can be quite easy for you. For me, it was a long process of many years, building up to everything and becoming more and more frustrated and angry, and because I was believing, I was so close to enlightenment, I believed that why can't divine interference just kick me up the rest of the way, or boost me up the rest of the way? Why is there really something more I need to face? Because I didn't understand that I had core issues, because nobody taught me about that. I understood, okay, I am in the high 500 level. That's pretty high, and higher than most people. I'm close to enlightenment. Why is it not happening for me? What is blocking me? And I thought it was the core of the ego. That's what I thought. You have a negative ego core that's basically made of pure rage, and is in opposition to the soul and to the higher levels, and is blocking you. but you can't really do anything. That's divine interference has to sort of do the last part for you. You have taken it all that far, but you can't battle the inner ego core yourself, or you can't release it, kind of. That's what I thought. As I became more and more angry, and my drinking started to become pretty heavy, and I become more and more stagnated in this pattern of frustration for many years. And but I was wrong about that. It's not really the ego core, it's actually the core of your personality structure more than the ego. The ego is the lens or the diving mask that you actually that focuses you into the physical reality, or focuses your soul or your consciousness into the physical in a narrow focus. That is not really the problem. The problem is these core issues that I didn't even know I had, because they happened before I was 3 years old, both of them, or before I could remember anything. So I'm going to talk about the core issues, because in this time you're going to have to deal with them. Within this year, if you're part of the ascension, you're most likely going to have to deal with those core issues as you pass through the eye of the needle. But there will maybe be other occasions too. It doesn't mean you have failed if you don't face them this year. There will be other occasions, but many people will be facing these issues at this time throughout the rest of the 2020. Because the next year is going to be a start of something completely new. And a bulk or a big part of the people who are on the ascension path will have to go through the eye of the needle at this time. So I'm going to share how it happened for me, how I healed these issues and what was causing them, because the cause of these issues I had are very typical for this planet. They're actually a big majority of people will have similar issues at the core. So what happened to me was that I had two core issues. So the masculine father issue, you might say, was because of something that happened when I was, I think, 3 years old or something. I have a very vague memory of it, but I can't really clearly see anything. But apparently I did something bad, and like kids do, and my father picked me up and gave me a whack on the behind, kind of hard. I barely remember it, but he told the Bashar being who contacted me, he told me that this happened. And that created in me, because of the shock effect and everything, I didn't expect it probably, and you're a kid, your parents are basically gods. So because of this, it created a rift between me and my father. So that's, if you're a parent and you're violent to your kid, it creates a rift. Even one whack like that is enough to define the kid's whole life, which it did to me. And it also created a pain snake of trauma, a trauma energy, or he called it a pain snake, that curled up in my gut from that point forward. And that was the root cause of all my digestive problems, food allergies and eczemas and all these things, because of that one whack at the age 3, which basically defined my whole life. I had to spend a lot of years curing my gut, basically 10 years from my 20s and until my 30s, with all sorts of problems. So it's a big deal. And now he was asking me to forgive that and to heal that. And the backstory is that he came to me in the night, and I did the cleansing that I talk about in the other video. You have to listen to that first, because I'm not going to repeat. But then in the daytime, I was having the dialogue with him back and forth as I went about my day. And he told me and I asked him at one point, can I see a UFO? Can you fix that? And he said, maybe, but if you go to the beach at this and that time, you might have some kind of sighting, he said. So I thought that I would see a UFO at the beach. So I went to the beach with my girlfriend, and I was sitting there with some people who worked there and whatnot, just, trying to act like normal, because he told me I couldn't tell anybody, including her, about about this, because she wouldn't understand, nobody would understand, and they would think I was crazy. So I had to keep it. I couldn't laugh if he was joking. I couldn't laugh out loud. I had to be careful. And we're sitting there at the beach, and suddenly there is this Russian guy, big guy, who drags along his butt-naked kid, like 5 years old or something, and he smacks the kid on the back, on the behind, like 3 times very hard, because the kid is crying already. So he, typical Russian upbringing, I guess. But so the kid is screaming, obviously, and everybody's like looking kind of shocked. But I couldn't look. I had to turn around, and I was like, I just completely froze. I couldn't move, and the Bashar being said to me like, "Yeah, your father did this to you one time, and now you're in shock because I'm bringing it up in you so you can heal it." And then this pain snake that he talked about, started coming out of my heart chakra area. And it felt like, basically, you see these anaconda snakes, 30 meters long or something, that's, massive snakes that you find in the Amazon jungle sometimes. That's what it felt like. Or what these things you see in Donnie Darko, the movie, if you've seen Donnie Darko. There is this scene with these energy snake-like things coming out of people's chests. That's exactly how it felt like, but the snake was made of pure pain. So I'm sitting there trying to act normal, trying to read a book so people don't notice me, that I'm like keeping myself busy so that nobody's bothering me. So I'm holding a book in my hand as I'm trying to heal this. I have to constantly face the pain. I have to completely watch with, I can't deny it. I can't do anything. I have to make it come out and just go out and out and out. And it continues for what feels like an eternity, because it's the worst pain I ever felt, and I don't have no idea how long it's going to last. Or, never had anything like this before. And he's cheering me on in the background, like, he's saying, "Can you forgive your father? Can you, just a little bit longer now? It's not that much left, He's just cheering me on and giving me a pep talk. And I'm sitting there like, it feels like an eternity, but maybe it was 3-4 minutes of pure pain facing. And finally the snake leaves my chest and it just is gone. And then it tells me to go quickly, to go swim in the ocean. So I just go and I swim. I go away from people. I swim a little bit out, and then I just burst into very explosive tears. And it tells me I had to release physically as well as mentally or energetically. So that's why he told me to go away, so I didn't look like a maniac who just suddenly burst into tears. And then when that was over, I felt really a massive relief. Felt really great, like a big cleansing had happened. And I went back, and then I'm sitting there now, like relaxing, and then he suddenly is asking me, "Why do you like Charles Manson so much?" Because I've been watching this movie scene for like a week or something. It's from the Mindhunter series. Basically it's a series about a true story about the profiling of serial killers, and these people are interviewing different serial killers in the prisons. And it's a very good series. I watched, but I got obsessed with this Manson scene because the guy who plays Charles Manson is absolutely nailing the role, and I've never seen anything like that. He just really it's amazing to watch how similar he is to Manson. And I watched this scene like every night, many times, because I was drinking at that time. Before this incident happened, I was drinking quite heavily, like a bottle of whiskey every night, basically. And I'd always enjoyed to watch different movie clips I get obsessed with as I'm drinking or getting drunk, because I don't know why, but that's just something that happened, became a habit or my only pleasure. When I was sick for 2 years, I did that a lot because I had nothing else to do. So I also started imitating and try to imitate, like impersonate different people in different scenes and these things. So I actually asked him about that before, like why did I do all that? And he said, because when you become a world teacher, you're gonna have like a stand-up comedy show combined with spiritual teaching or satsang, and you're gonna be able to impersonate all these characters and even more. So I guess, everything you do sort of amounts to something. They can always work with what you're doing somehow. But anyway, so I was watching this Manson show, this Manson scene. You can find it on YouTube. It's a really good show and a good scene. Because I've been obsessed with the Manson case many years before. I've been reading books about it and watched all the interviews because I was fascinated by the whole story of it, the whole mystery. But anyway, then so we're sitting at the beach, and he knows I've been watching that scene every day for a week, every night for a week, many times. So he's asking me like, why do you like Manson so much? And I'm like, yeah, that's a good question, I guess. And then he suddenly asked like, so would you like to talk to him? And I'm like, my day couldn't get much better at this point. I'm talking to what I think is Bashar, and I've been through the worst pain healing in my life, in which he actually told me after this healing, he said that no being has ever healed more pain in one sitting. And now he's asking me to talk to Charles Manson. I said like, talk to him. What do you mean? I mean, no, yeah, no problem. He's on the other side. He's on the spirit world. I can pass him through to you. He can talk to you. You can talk to him. And I'm like halfway starstruck. I'm sitting there like, okay. And he's, I'm going to talk to Charles Manson now, okay. And Manson comes through, and he basically says like, so he's very surprised that somebody who is destined to be a world teacher would like somebody like him. And then he's just gone. Then Bashar comes back. So I'm like, okay, that's probably a good point, And anyway, that sort of ended that session in the beach, and that was one core issue healed, and I thought that was it. I didn't know, even worse thing was gonna come up later that evening, and that happened, some hours later when we went home and we were watching a movie. Me and my girlfriend watching a movie. And I'm talking to him, I'm watching a movie because I want to keep her busy as I'm talking to him, in my mind. And, so I'm talking to him back and forth, and suddenly he says, I'm sitting on a couch, and he's saying, so when you were a baby, your mother couldn't really nurse you. There was no heart connection, there was no love connection at all. It was like being nursed by an android. And, there is a feminine, you already healed the masculine issue, now there is a feminine issue that's even deeper. But we're going to do that now. So I'm a bit shocked, I'm thinking about why, really? That's why I have such a bad connection with my mother all my life. And he says, yes. And she was really depressed by it because you were a firstborn son and she couldn't connect with you at all. So, as he's saying this, I feel in my heart area there's this, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a pain that's just growing, like expanding in diameter or whatever it's called. It's just expanding and expanding above my chest area and around, surrounding my whole body, and just opening and opening and opening until it's pretty massive, and I'm like pressed down under it. It's just a massive field of pure pain. And he's saying to me that as this thing is growing, he's saying, so this time I cannot cheer you on, I cannot pep talk you, just like your mother couldn't nurse you when you were a baby. And then he has Manson rambling, he puts Manson through again, so Manson is rambling in the background with this weird, the way he does, if you look at the clips. So he's rambling, but what he's saying is kind of relevant to what I'm going through in some weird way. So the whole thing is just getting really strange. And as this thing is peaking, basically, and he's saying to me like these things like, oh, this can go on all night if you don't heal it. In fact, it can go on all week if you don't deal with it right now. And I'm like starting to sweat, and I'm trying my best to not show anything to my girlfriend who's just enjoying the movie, and I'm sitting having the worst time of my life ever, and I'm actually questioning my sanity at this point. And I'm really starting to sweat. And then at the top of everything he says, hey, what if I'm not Bashar? What if I'm actually a demon? And that's when I don't know what to do. I mean, at that point I was so scared. I've never been more scared in my life, because I thought that he was actually a demon, and that I've gone completely insane, that everything was just, paranoid, schizophrenic, hallucinations, and the whole thing was just a demon who was toying with me, basically. So I just sort of fell back and just, let go of everything. I couldn't really know what to do. So in the second I did that, the whole thing disappeared. So he helped me push me over the edge. So I sort of surrendered to it, and that was it. The pain was gone, the whole thing was gone, and the whole thing was healed. But that is truly the most scary moment of my life, because I actually thought that because of my drinking, I had gone completely insane. I just created a psychosis or sleep deprivation kind of thing. And that was it. I was going to be nuts the rest of my life and see hallucinations and be tortured by a demon who's trying to pretend he's healing me or something. And, I was still scared even after this, because I wasn't sure anymore. Was this real or was it not, Because it's very similar to kind of a psychosis experience, because, you're dealing on a borderline of a different dimension, a much higher vibration, and it creates lots of weird effects. Like at some point I could see what looked like people in my apartment, but they were just hallucinations. Like, they looked like people who were twitching and dancing in really quick, weird ways, and they were kind of scary, actually. And when I looked at them, kind of shocked, he just said to me, like, "I don't worry about that. It's just interdimensional disturbances, because the vibration you're in tonight right now." But it still made me question things, And the night wasn't even finished yet, because I had to go through a massive cleansing one more. The core issues were now gone, but my whole system needed to be cleansed yet one more, like, just for good measures, I guess. So when we finally went to bed, because the first night when he came when I went to bed. I talk about that in the other video, you can check it out, but the same thing happened the night when he left. So we go to bed, and she doesn't know anything, obviously, so I'm lying there, and he's already told me that he's going to start work with me as soon as I go to bed. And I do, and I'm taken out of the body, so I can feel my body lying in bed, the physical body, but I'm also, at the same time, I'm approaching the whatever spaceship they have, up there. So my energetic body is being lifted up, and he has been telling me all day that if they succeed completely with this cleansing, I will be granted a new body. And this is how the ascension will progress. People will get new bodies like this. That's what he's been telling me. So I'm like super motivated to do this, because this new body, I can choose my own age and all these things, and I can even download learn languages, like just get a new body with a new brain, where actually I know all these languages and all these skills, like kung fu and all, like kind of like the Matrix. That's what he's been telling me all day. But I realized later that he did that just to make me completely super motivated for the cleansing that I had to go through. It wasn't really true that I was going to get a new body like that. But I thought so at this point. So they lifted me up into the spaceship again, and inside the spaceship, it's like I can see blurry visions of beings moving around there, and it feels like being in a frying pan energetically. Like, it's really, really hard to manage the fear that you feel, to be able to even stay inside. So they have to take me down and up again 3 times. And the final time, I'm so scared of failing this mission, not getting the new body, that I'm just doing my absolute most to face, to be as good as possible up there, and face the fears and keep the fears in check. And basically I'm stripped down to one last resistance. I can see it like visually in a kind of way. And one of the beings up there, they say, yeah, the fear of death. So I'm stripped down to the fear of death, and then they take me down in the bed again, and that's sort of it. They seem happy, or that was, as deep as they could go at this time. So I'm lying in bed, I'm coming down from 2 days of no sleep, 1 week of or more than that for drinking 1 bottle of whiskey every night, and I haven't slept since I did that, and I've gone through the worst insane cleansing of my life the same day, and now I can't sleep. I'm lying there because I'm seeing hallucinations floating around in my room, and I'm hearing this voice from the corner just saying the same gibberish sentence over and over again on repeat and never stopping, and it's really bothering me. I can't sleep because I'm hearing this, and he's telling me like he's still with me. If I ask questions, he still comes back, but I feel that he's leaving, but he's still coming back to answer questions if I have, or if I have something in my mind. And he's saying like, don't worry about those things, try to sleep, but those things are just disturbances, they will go away soon. But at this point, I feel that I have completely failed the so-called mission. I didn't get the new body. I can't get to ascension because I didn't get the new body. I haven't slept for all these days. I have a bad hangover. Kind of, my health system is messed up from all this, and I'm questioning my sanity at this point, because I'm thinking maybe he lied. I mean, the body didn't happen. The new body didn't happen. Maybe the whole thing is bullshit. Maybe it is a demon, because at this point I couldn't really feel the benefits of the healings I've been through, because I hadn't slept for so many days and everything else. So I didn't know if there was any benefit. Maybe this whole thing was just the way schizophrenics, have experienced reality, or their so-called hallucinations. Maybe this is how it works. You just get into this crazy ideas that this happened and whatnot, and you have to do this and this, and that's how you're gaslighted into doing weird stuff, right? So I'm thinking maybe this being will just come back the next day, and I will have to go through similar insane stuff, and it's all just in my mind. It's all just hallucinations and craziness and psychosis. So that's the worst. I've never been more down in my life, I think, because I really felt like a failure, or if I was not a failure, I questioned my sanity. So either I was a big failure, I couldn't do what I was supposed to, or I questioned or I was going completely insane. It wasn't a good situation, and he didn't really confirm that anything like that, but they don't really do that, they let you find out yourself. But basically he was gone, and luckily I found 2 sleeping pills that I'd somehow forgotten about, or my girlfriend had something, and I just took 2 sleeping pills, and I crashed completely for at least 18 hours or something. And when I woke up, I felt a lot better, and I could really feel the difference in my chest, the heart chakra area, that something major had happened from those core healings. That's when I understood or knew that this was real. This was not a paranoid schizophrenic hallucinations. This was an actual experience of real contact and of real healing. Because after that point, my life completely changed. My relationship with alcohol completely changed, and many other things changed. It took like some time to integrate everything and all these things. I'm still integrating now. I mean, he said it could take up to 1 year, so it's been like 6-7 months, I guess, now. So I'm still integrating, definitely. Because what happened when you heal the core issues, there is no more hooks inside. The hook is gone, because everything else is built upon the hooks of the core issues. So everything else that might be on top of those core issues, they are now being processed out, and I've been feeling that a lot. It's like all these flashes of memories that just come throughout the day. It's like cellular memories, I guess they're called. I can just do whatever I do, sit around, or watch TV or whatever I do during the day, and suddenly I will have this like a flash of a memory that just disappears in the same instant that it appears. It comes and then it goes, and maybe that memory has some kind of negative feeling attached to it, or some kind of negative memory or whatever. That's just how it feels to heal everything after this. The core issues have been cleansed, and everything else will naturally leave you, because there's nothing for it to attach to anymore. So this is the most fundamental healing you can do, And I don't know if I could have done it on my own. I don't know how that will happen, because if I had no context and he didn't explain to me what was going on and why these things happen and whatnot, I don't know if this pain snake and whatnot came out of my chest like that. I don't think I would have been able to go through with it, because I just wouldn't have known what it was. I would just block it to keep it inside again, because it was just too painful to. So I really don't see how I could have, but I guess how people heal these things will vary a lot from person to person, and also obviously the severity of the issues will also vary a lot, and what issues you have. Not everyone have the same mother issue that I had, because many people, but a big percentage will have that. I looked it up actually, and I didn't know about it before, but after I learned from him, I tried to Google it up, and there is a big percentage, I think like 20%, maybe more, of women that have this kind of issue with their newborn. And I guess that sort of explains why there is so much addiction in the world. It could be, at least that's the might be the main cause. I don't know if anything else can cause it, because the Bashar being told me that this void was created inside of my chest or my heart because of the lack of this connection to my mother as a baby. So that created a void inside, and I've been trying, he said, to fill that with alcohol my whole life. So, that's the root cause of all addiction, that void inside. And I guess that's the most, I don't know if there are any other ways that void can be created than this way. I didn't ask about that, but at least I know that kind of lack of connection with your mother is bound to create that void, and that's the root cause of addiction. Not only addiction to alcohol, but all sorts of addictions to anything, basically. And all sorts of cravings. It can be even food cravings, anything, because you're trying to fill this void. But, what can you do? You don't even know that's how it, you're just a baby. You don't remember it happened like that. But now if people hear this, at least they can know, that there's such a thing. There is such a very deep-seated trauma that can be healed. Although healing it is not easy, and I don't know how you heal it without assistance or help. I wouldn't have a clue how to do that, because it's just too massive of a pain to just face without any context or knowing. But I guess you can also get, if you ask for assistance very earnestly and these things, and like in people who go to AA meetings and these kind of things, sometimes you have miraculous transformations of people there, because divine intervention will kind of remove the core issues, or you will just become a person who never had the core issues in the begin with. So there are ways to get over these issues, but I don't know. I just know how it happened to me. I don't really know how you can heal these issues alone, but my best guess would be that you have to be very, very honest about it, very earnest in your seeking, and just ask for assistance from your guides, from your higher mind, from whoever can assist you if you're going through something like that, or if you have that kind of problem, if you have an addiction. Or my alcohol so-called addiction wasn't never like it was bad when I was in the 50s, when I was 20, in my early 20s years old, and I was calibrating at level 50 and way below 200. Then obviously I was drinking in a very bad way, and later when I came up the scale, I still started drinking again because of the dark night of the soul, basically. So then I started drinking when I was in the higher 500s, and not least when I was in the low 600s, which was over a span of 5, 6, 7 years, because the first years of 500s were so blissful that I didn't drink that much, more enjoying my new state of being. But definitely I was a heavy drinker for many years, even in the higher 500s and low 600s, because of these core issues, or this specifically the mother core issue. I was up it was almost routine for me for more like a couple of years to drink, like, every weekend. I could still hold a job and I function normally in every day, but I just took everything out in the weekends. So basically, often I would just drink, like 3 bottles of Prosecco in one night, plus 6 beers or something. And the beers I kept so I could just have something in reserve until the shops opened the next day. So I just basically would go to the shop at 10 o'clock in the morning or Saturday morning and buy 2 new Proseccos and maybe 3 and some more beers, and just continue drink the whole Friday night and then all of Saturday. And on Sunday I would calm down the drinking, like I would drink myself down to a certain level, and then I would just sleep as long as possible to lessen the hangover on Monday, but still have a horrible Monday and pretty bad Tuesday. Wednesday neutral, and then Thursday I would be thirsty again, and Friday I would start the same process. So that's how my week usually went for those years. But I mean, I don't regret my drinking. Of course, certain bad things I could have avoided if I didn't drink, but all in all, I had a lot of fun drinking like that. I mean, music, because the brain of an alcoholic is wired in such a way that it creates amazing pleasure when you drink. And I had that kind of brain. But when the Bashar being was, as I talk about in the other video, when he was massaging my brain and basically rewiring all the connections or light connections, whatever you call it, in my brain, and it felt like energetic fingers moving around in my brain like it was potato mush or something. But anyway, when he did that, apparently he must have changed something. He said he did it because he was rigging me for enlightenment, and my whole brain needed to change for that. And that, I believe that is true. But I also believe, either purposely or as a consequence of this, my brain is now the opposite of what an alcoholic brain is. Because now when I drink, there is almost no pleasure. Like, it's the opposite. Before, when I drank, it's like the most pleasurable. I didn't even want to go out and socialize, because drinking alone and listening to music gave me the absolute most pleasure I could get. Socializing with people just dragged me down usually, and especially the bad music you have in most people listen to, or most pubs and modern music you find at these places you go out is horrible. So I would just usually just stay home alone and listen to my own music and drink alone. And that gave me the most pleasure. And now, when I'm, obviously after the whole healing experience, I still had a few fallbacks when I tried to get back to the same old fun I used to have. But I just realized it doesn't work anymore. My brain has changed. If I drink alcohol, I just get tired, and there's almost no pleasure in it. But still I get really bad hangovers. So all in all, it's not a win-win or win-lose situation. It's just a lose-lose. Before, the pleasure and the fun sort of weighed up for the hangovers and the bad Mondays and Tuesdays. But now it's just no point, because it's just expensive and makes me tired, and it's no fun. So gradually I've sort of stopped drinking like that, like drinking heavily at all. I don't do that anymore. I know I can still enjoy a beer or two, like normal people, but before, if I did that, I would just continue drinking until I was unconscious, basically. But now I have the whole thing has changed because of this core issues been healed, and it's a whole new reality, kind of, now that I'm just getting out of that, all those years with combined spiritual search and soul searching with heavy drinking. It's kind of a weird combination, but it's possible because of the core issues. Because even though you're high level, this goes for many people, you will have core issues. They are the last to be dealt with, right? They're the closest to the enlightenment level, basically. They are the core issues that are bothering you, and they're causing the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is a mystery for some people, but for me, after this, it's no mystery. It's actually very logical, because Dark night of the soul usually happens, as you're approaching a breakthrough into enlightenment. It can happen for a month, it can happen for years, like with me, it can happen for maybe just a week or even just a few days. Who knows? But the point is, it's caused by the core issues that you still have, that happened before you even remember it. They were created in you in early childhood. So that's basically my take on the core issues. I can't really help that much with how you are supposed to heal them. You have to just ask your guides, your higher mind, for that, because every case is quite unique. But if you are feeling these issues that many people are at this time of the eye of the needle, you definitely should ask for assistance, because the more you ask, the more receptive you become, and the more receptive you become, the more they can help you. This is important, so you should definitely, just looking for the core issues, being open to facing them, is enough for him to help you, or the higher mind to help you. Actually, he told me that. He said, you could have looked for those issues, but I didn't know I had those issues. Yeah, that's why he sort of interfered, because he saw that I wasn't able to, my belief system were hindering me, because I didn't know I had core issues at all. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was the core of the actual ego that I could not do anything about, that the higher divine beings had to interfere to help me with. And that I thought that was how it always would happen with enlightened people. That was the default way. That you take it all the way to the highest level you can, to the core of the ego, and then divine interference sort of melts the final ego away, or whatever, and then you hit the highest enlightenment levels instead, or you break through to the higher levels. So because of my belief system, I didn't look for these issues. But now, if you hear this video, you can do it differently, and you can actually look for the issues and be open to healing them and ask for assistance. That's the best advice I can give. I mean, in the end, the core issues are just very deep-seated trauma and unexpressed negative emotions that happened so young that you don't even know how to express anything. So that's why they become such a major issue, because they're so close to the light. It's like a movie screen. Like the world is a movie screen, and your consciousness is the light in the projector, and the movie is the mind, right? And these issues are the closest to the light, so they become the biggest issues once they're faced. At least that's how it looks on the movie screen. But so that's pretty much it for core issues and the dark night of the soul. And as we pass through the eye of the needle, and many more people will go through this, it will be interesting to hear if other people have gone through something similar, and you can leave a comment below.